Hello, my name is Rebekah Hathaway. I've been coming to Northwest Hills with my husband and 3 kids for about 6 years, I think, if my memory serves me right. Following Jesus has changed my life tremendously. I've always known the Lord and grew up in a great Christian home with a dad who just poured into us the love of God. I was about 20 years old when I met somebody who I thought I would spend the rest of my life with. We entered a relationship which lasted 6 months from our first date until 2 days before the wedding, at which point we called it off. During this period, there were a lot of strong emotions and a lot of unanswered questions for me. We later discovered that this man was in what's called a Christian cult. There were a lot of just really crazy and bizarre rules that I didn't agree with, really struggled with. They specialized in separating you completely from family, from friends, from any emotional attachment that you had. And they told me they didn't believe any of my family or friends were saved because none of them went to this church, and only through the confirmation into this church would I be saved. That just didn't sit well with me. I didn't believe a word of it, and that was one of the huge disagreements that erupted. Ultimately, 2 days before the wedding, a big explosion occurred because all these disagreements just erupted. I was set down in front of the higher ups of this church group that he was part of, that I was being sucked into, confirmed into. They were trying to make me a member, confirm me into it. So I was sat down in front of people and I shared my story, how I viewed some of the rules that they had laid down, and they were just in so much shock. They said, "This has never happened in the history of this church before." They were horrified at what I was saying, that I didn't agree with every interpretation of the Bible that they were trying to get me to believe. And they told me to my face that I had turned my back on God because I was not agreeing with the Bible they were holding in their hand and every single word in it with their interpretation, that I had turned my back on God and my back on them. And I kept saying, "No, that's not true." And everybody was so accusing and just ripped me into a million pieces with as many words as they can, that they could. That night, though, when they were telling me flat out to my face, they truly believed that I had turned my back on God. I had a peace in me. I had God telling me, you're not. This is one of those moments where God met me, and to me, I think this is what gets me in the story. God's goodness is grace to pull me out of it, to calm me in the midst of a storm, to reassure me and remind me that I hadn't turned my back on God. God was right there telling me, "Stay strong, run to me now." So I did. I got up and left, and I knew what they all thought of me, and that's never a pleasant thing when there's so much of that going on. But it began the healing process. I knew it wasn't true. I don't know how I knew that, but God loved me more than anything, and it was just unbelievable to me. Just being released from that was an incredible freedom that even today, 18 years later, I don't take lightly, not at all. I thank God almost every day for pulling me out of that and giving me the life that He has given me. Just over time, I found a tremendous amount of healing to the point where I met my husband, Michael, 5 years later. I have so much freedom to raise our children in the Lord, to talk to my friends about God. I'm blown away by His goodness, His constant knocking on my door to get my attention, even when I wasn't initially ready to hear that or ready to listen or ready to start questioning it. And He was still there. He's just so good, and He wants us so bad that He will stop at nothing.